Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at how sleep patterns change
Okay.
across our lifespan. And, I was just skimming through these excerpts you gave me from Why We Sleep, and I got to admit, I'm hooked already.
Yeah, it's a
It's some really
it's a really fascinating look.
that sleep and how
Would cover everything from those tiny little naps in the womb
right.
to
Yeah.
well, not so tiny naps maybe as we get older.
Mm,
And speaking of the womb,
right.
I was I was really blown away by how much time babies
Yeah.
spend in a REM-like state before they're even born.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Really.
And it's not just random activity either. All that REM sleep during fetal development is laying the groundwork for
I much.
they're already learning in there.
Everything the brain will do later on.
Yeah, so all that kicking that expectant mothers feel,
Right.
that's actually the baby in a REM-like state.
Exactly. It's interesting because adults don't move around during REM sleep. Right. Why is that? Yeah, that's because as adults, our brains have developed this safety mechanism that essentially paralyzes our muscles
Okay.
during REM sleep. But fetuses haven't developed that yet.
Gotcha.
So they're free to move around.
Interesting.
It almost makes you wonder if those movements
Yeah.
are helping to shape the brain's development.
Yeah, almost like
Right.
exercise for the brain, in a way.
Yeah.
And I read that this REM sleep
Yeah.
isn't just about movement, it's actually
Yeah.
crucial for wiring the brain, right?
Absolutely. That's where this process called synaptogenesis comes in.
Okay.
Essentially, it's all about forming those neural connections
Right.
that allow the brain to function.
Yeah.
And REM sleep provides the optimal environment
Okay.
for that to happen. It's almost like
Yeah.
fertilizing a garden.
Uh-huh.
You need the right conditions for those seeds to grow.
Right.
And for the brain, that condition seems to be REM sleep.
Oh, wow. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So it's not just about dreaming.
Right.
It's like building the infrastructure of the brain.
Yeah.
And this activity actually peaks
Yeah.
right before birth.
Exactly. In the final weeks of pregnancy, fetuses can get up to
Wow.
12 hours of REM sleep a day.
That's more.
That's more than any other point in their lives.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive.
You would think.
Right. You'd think they'd be gearing up to
Yeah.
be more awake in the world, but it just goes to show
Right.
how crucial this stage of brain development is.
Yeah, it really highlights how important sleep is
Mm-hmm.
even before we enter the world.
Right.
So as a new parent, you're almost encouraging
Yeah.
this REM sleep-like state in a way.
That's a great way to put it. By creating a calm and
Yeah.
soothing environment, parents are indirectly supporting their baby's brain development.
It makes you wonder if that's why babies are so sleepy all the time when they're first born.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps their brains are still catching up from
Yeah.
that intense development in the womb.
So we've talked about the importance of REM sleep
Yeah.
before birth, but does it continue to play a significant role after the baby is born?
It absolutely does. In fact, some researchers believe that disruptions
Yeah.
in REM sleep in early childhood could have long-term consequences
Oh, okay.
for brain development.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a little unnerving to think about.
Yeah.
Are there any specific examples of how REM sleep disruptions might impact development?
One area that researchers have been looking into is the connection between REM sleep and autism.
Interesting.
Studies have shown that children with autism often get
Right.
significantly less REM sleep than neurotypical children.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a sense of whether the lack of REM sleep might be
Right.
a contributing factor to autism, or is it more
Big question.
of a symptom?
And it's still an area of active research.
Oh, okay.
But there have been some pretty compelling studies done with rats that offer some clues.
Oh, tell me about those.
Well, in these studies, researchers intentionally disrupted
Yeah.
the REM sleep of baby rats.
Wow.
And what they found was pretty striking.
Okay.
The rats whose REM sleep was disrupted ended up with smaller brain volume
Oh, wow.
overall, and they displayed social behaviors that were different from the rats who had normal REM sleep.
So even though it's rats, not humans, it really underscores how important REM sleep is
Exactly.
for brain development.
Yeah, and it raises concerns about anything that might disrupt REM sleep in babies, like alcohol exposure.
Right. The book mentioned alcohol specifically.
Mhm.
What's the connection there?
Alcohol is particularly damaging because it correctly interferes with REM sleep.
Gotcha.
And this is true whether the mother drinks during pregnancy or while breastfeeding.
So essentially anything that interferes with a baby's ability to get enough REM sleep could potentially have long-term consequences.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message for expectant parents. So we've gone from the womb to infancy.
Right.
But sleep patterns don't just stop changing there, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
As babies grow into toddlers and then into school-age children, their sleep needs and patterns continue to evolve.
Okay, so what happens next? Do those tiny humans eventually start sleeping through the night?
Eventually, but it's a gradual process. Remember how we talked about the circadian rhythm, that internal clock that regulates our sleep-wake cycle? Well, in infants, that circadian rhythm isn't fully developed yet.
Okay.
That's why they tend to sleep in short bursts throughout the day and night.
Yeah, that explains why new parents are always so exhausted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But over the first few years of life, that circadian rhythm starts to mature and solidify, influenced by things like light exposure and regular feeding schedules.
So as their internal clocks get in sync,
Yeah.
they start sleeping for longer stretches at night.
Precisely. They go from those multiple naps a day, which is called polyphasic sleep, to a more consolidated sleep schedule at night, eventually leading to the monophasic sleep pattern that's typical of adults with one main block of sleep at night.
So by the time kids reach school age, they've mostly transitioned to a more adult-like sleep schedule.
Yes, for the most part. But even as they move into adolescence, their sleep needs are still evolving. And this is where things get really interesting because there's another big shift in sleep patterns during this time.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay.
What happens during the teenage years?
Well, during adolescence, there's a shift away from REM sleep dominance to deep NREM sleep.
Hold on. I thought REM sleep was so important for brain development. Does it become less important?
It's not that REM sleep becomes less important. It's more that the brain's focus shifts.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about REM sleep being crucial for laying down those neural connections early on?
Yes, like building the infrastructure.
Well, during adolescence, it's all about refining and optimizing those connections. It's like the brain is going through a massive reorganization project.
So if building the infrastructure is like laying down the roads,
then
adolescence is like putting in the traffic lights and making everything run smoothly.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And deep NREM sleep plays a crucial role in this process.
I'm curious, how do we know that deep sleep is involved in this brain reorganization?
There's some fascinating research that sheds light on this. A scientist named Erwin Feinberg conducted a groundbreaking study where he tracked the sleep patterns of children over a period of 10 years.
10 years. That's incredible dedication to sleep research.
Wow.
And what he found was remarkable.
Okay.
He noticed this dramatic increase in the intensity of deep NREM sleep as the children entered adolescence. It actually peaked right before puberty.
So just when those teenagers are going through all those hormonal and physical changes, their brains are also being reshaped by deep sleep.
It's like their brains are working overtime.
That's pretty amazing.
Even while they're sleeping.
But what happens to deep sleep after adolescence? Does it stay at that high level?
Unfortunately, no. As we transition into adulthood, deep sleep starts to decline.
Why is that? And what are the implications of that decline?
Well, those are some of the key questions we'll explore as we continue our deep dive into sleep across the lifespan.
So it sounds like deep sleep is really important during adolescence.
Yeah.
But if it starts to decline as we enter adulthood, that can't be good, can it? You're right to be concerned. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a downhill slide from there.
Oh, no.
We actually start losing deep sleep in our late 20s and 30s.
Wow.
And by the time we hit 70, we've lost most of it.
That's a lot. I hadn't realized it was such a steep decline.
Yeah.
No wonder I haven't been feeling as sharp as I used to.
Right.
But what's actually happening in the brain to cause this loss of deep sleep?
It turns out that as we age, the very parts of our brain responsible for generating deep sleep are the ones that deteriorate the most. It's like the well runs dry, so to speak.
So does that mean older adults just need less sleep?
Right.
Or are they simply less capable of getting
That's a great
the sleep they still need?
And it challenges a common misconception. The research actually suggests that while older adults may have a harder time generating deep sleep, their need for it doesn't actually decrease. They may even need more sleep, given all the other age-related changes happening in their bodies.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But if they're not getting the deep sleep they need,
right,
what are the consequences?
Well, for one thing, lack of deep sleep can significantly impact memory consolidation.
Okay.
The book describes a study where older adults were asked to memorize a list of facts. Those who got less deep sleep overnight were much worse at recalling those facts the next morning.
So that stereotype of older adults being forgetful
Right.
might actually have something to do with this decline in deep sleep.
Yeah, it could be a factor.
That's pretty eye-opening.
It really is. And the effects of poor sleep go beyond memory.
Okay.
Older adults who consistently don't get enough sleep are at higher risk for depression, cognitive decline, and even falls. It's really a cascade of
that's concerning.
negative consequences.
Is there anything older adults can do to improve their sleep?
Well,
I know the book mentions something about circadian rhythm shifts as we age.
You're right. As we get older, our internal clocks tend to shift earlier, which is why many older adults find themselves getting sleepy earlier in the evening and waking up earlier in the morning.
So that's why my parents are always ready for bed by 8 p.m.
Right.
It's like they're living on a different time zone. But seriously, is there anything they can do
Well, there are.
to shift their circadian rhythms back a bit?
A few things that can help. Getting some sunlight exposure in the late afternoon can be beneficial.
Gotcha.
And some people find that taking melatonin supplements in the evening can help regulate their sleep-wake cycle.
So there's hope for those early birds who want to stay up a little later.
Yeah.
But what about that deep sleep decline? Is there anything that can be done to reverse that?
The million-dollar question, and researchers are actively exploring potential solutions.
Okay.
One promising avenue involves brain stimulation techniques.
Brain stimulation. That sounds pretty high-tech.
It is.
Wow.
The idea is to use targeted electrical or magnetic stimulation to boost those deep sleep brainwaves. It's interesting.
It's still in the experimental stages, but some early studies have shown encouraging results.
That's fascinating. It sounds like there's still so much we don't know about sleep.
Right.
But what we are learning is truly revolutionary.
Yeah.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface today.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about this field.
Right.
The more we learn about sleep, the more we realize how fundamental it is to our health and well-being at every stage of life.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening deep dive into sleep across the lifespan.
It's been great.
I'm walking away with a renewed appreciation for the power of sleep and the importance of prioritizing it.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I think the key takeaway for our listeners is that sleep isn't a luxury. It's not something to be squeezed in if you have time. It's an essential investment in your health.
Absolutely.
Both now and in the future.
And I'd encourage everyone listening to dive deeper into this topic by checking out the book, Why We Sleep. It's a real page-turner.
Absolutely.
And as always, happy diving!